Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there, welcome back.
So, guys, please do subscribe. Both channels get the little bell clicked for unique material. We want to thank everybody that's supporting us over at Patreon. And there, at little as $1 a month, you can help to support the channel in these times of demonization. Yes, absolutely. These are those times.
Big time.
Yes, and also on Ko-Fi, where you can do a one-time donation or also monthly support for the channel, which we do appreciate as always, guys. So, Cindy was just making contact with Nostradamus, and for you guys that are joining us for maybe the first time, yes, this is something that is possible. There are people that are set up to channel and really could tap into anybody at any time and place. There are, and this is something that is not unique when we get outside of this dark age. This is actually something that everybody would be able to do in a golden age and in a silver age, I would venture to guess as well.
Yes, definitely. Now, he was extremely gifted in the sense when he channeled, his eyes would actually change colors. He was very, very, very amazing. So not only could he get the information, his whole body, his whole energy would really move into the entity that he was channeling. So that's really what made him stick out, and that's what got that's what got people's attention.
And again, we want to reiterate, he was who was he associated with? The kings and the queens, the church. So yeah, he was working for the controllers.
He definitely worked for the controllers. When people show up on the planet that are this gifted, you don't just get to go off in a corner somewhere. It's too dangerous to have these people who are so gifted with giving out information. They need to be utilized. They need to be taken and put in a safe place for safekeeping, because their work is very important. And if it gets out in the wrong way, well, things are not going to go the way the controllers want. So they definitely control people like this.
And so they know who, in many cases, the controllers know who we are more than we do. As far as just talking about humanity, they know which souls, per se, are souls that have only known a Kali Yuga here on Earth and are no real threat, so to speak. And they know those that have come from golden ages, silver ages, other planets that are a very big threat. And they watch them very, very closely. Of course, a lot of these beings are definitely protected, but it's also a matter of connecting yourself, reconnecting to the highest self for that protection and guidance. And this is something we should all be doing. For those of you that follow this channel on a regular basis, the likelihood is you are what we would call starseed light workers, and you've come here with the purpose of helping to change things, to break down the system and awaken humanity's possibilities that are lying dormant within humanity for the most part. And this awakening is happening right now, albeit it is definitely an uncomfortable process. When he wrote this letter to his son Caesar, this is the letter to Caesar, which I would encourage everybody to read. Again, you have to recognize this has been out there for 500 years. So this has been modified. Everything you get on this planet is the controller sanitized version. Please realize that. Everything you are looking at is the controller sanitized version. Unless you somehow found a way to make it inside the Vatican catacombs and have, grabbed yourself some scrolls that haven't been looked at in a long time, or maybe they have been. But either way, you're not supposed to see them. You're getting a sanitized version, just like when the FBI, the CIA, they do their redactions, they black out certain words, sanitized for public consumption. Then they put it out there for the Freedom of Information Act. The same thing has happened with his letter to Caesar and all his works, in fact. Again, he did the channeling. The secret societies of the controllers did the editing, and they also switched things around so that they fit the script more.
They did. No, he wrote the information, but what he told me is they took the information and they modified it to fit their means. He's a very gifted channel. He put a lot of information out there. And as you know, when you channel information, it comes at the speed of light. So all information, all things that have happened, he's going to write them down as if they all happen at the same time, which is confusing. So we live in a time stamped world. So they did take all of his writings. They put them in order in which they thought they would be best served.
And when you read his writings, again, this is a soul that was working for the powers that be. And just like Aleister Crowley and John Dee, where they really did have aspirations to uncover the mysteries and to go deep and to go to a very high place, where they found themselves was in the middle of the muck and the mire. Because again, the first beings that are going to be encountered often around us are the dark ones, are those that we would call the servants of that AI dragon entity, the Draco, the Anunnaki, the Ijiji, the Greys, the tall Greys, the short Greys. There's many different beings working together in that particular group for control of humanity and other species as well. And it's not just this planet. We're just, again, one small little outpost in the bigger battle. So everything was written with a very, very official church stamp, terms of our Savior and Almighty God and restoration. Even at the end, he says the monarchy will be restored. Yeah, again, he is working for them, but albeit his soul would love to help illuminate humanity.
He would. He wants to use his gifts for the purpose of giving and for the purpose of helping. And one thing that he is telling me is that if you are drawn to his writings and if his writings are actually speaking to you, then just know you were probably somewhat close to him during this time. And this information is for you. So he's asking people to look at it, see if it speaks to you. And if it does, what does it say to you? Because it all reaches us in different ways, different forms. But the most important part is it speaking to you?
Yes, absolutely. And how does that happen and all? You got to learn to cultivate that which is going to attach you and create that communications with the higher self. And that's the key to then knowledge of past lives and understanding the intertwined aspects of all things. So he does speak about the time frame that we're in. And again, this is really, again, coming from the controllers ultimately, because again, he was basically doing these works to help form the reality that was to come. So much of everything that we've gotten is all about controlling the mindset, getting millions, billions of people to believe there is a preordained outcome that has to come through in a particular manner. And if your consciousness, your subconsciousness is seeing things and thinking, well, this has to be, it's ordained, God has said so, and then you're helping to create it. And so, our battle is trying to point this out without helping to add to it. But again, without pointing it out, you're going to have so many people that are just simply adding to it. So he does talk about how you're going to have so many countries under the grips of revolution. And he does talk about the three, quote unquote, antichrists, of which, the third is yet to be known per se as an individual. But you got to realize too, his antichrists were not what many people think of in terms of an antichrist, because Hitler was one, and again, it could be a person. It really truly it's arbitrary who is going to be designed to be the big baddie. As there are some that view that Hitler wasn't as evil as they say, but again, just look at the energy to determine what a person is. And when you see these huge egoic people that really truly put their own ideas above that of the masses, instead of becoming a servant to help create a better world. Anytime we go to do something like that by force, that's anti-Christ. That in itself is anti-Christ. When everything that we're given in the system is so upside down, topsy-turvy, which I think about his words there, crosses topsy-turvy, talking about the swastikas, which again is a solar sign. It's a positive sign that has been twisted. Everything has been twisted. This is exactly what these entities in this system does. There is no true creative ability there. They just take something that is created in a good light, in a good sense, and they twist and distort it. Just like they're trying to do right now with DNA. And they have done this before. And so, this talks all about plagues, long famine, wars, and revolutions from within. And before and after these times, humanity shall several times be so severely diminished that scarcely anybody will be found who wishes to take over the fields. You want yourself a farm, it's right there. How are you going to work it? You're going to work it all by yourself? How? There's going to be no fuel. There's going to be no, again, we have to think outside the box, because they've already told us all of their plans. Again, this is channeling that has been redacted and edited and made for public consumption. The entire purpose is public consumption, so that the public will help to carry out the plans of the controllers.
And that is something that definitely causes people to pause and ask themselves, well, what can I do to make a change? What can I do to create a reality that is going to really benefit the masses, instead of having the masses work against each other? And to that I say, you really must go within. You must go within, and you must find those traumas and heal those emotional traumas, so that when you are reaching out to other people, you are healing that in such a way that it's from the core, it's from the very center, because they have spent so much time and energy and effort to make sure we are traumatized from such a small age that it's very easy for them to put the information out there and for us to follow because of the way we're traumatized. See, they understand our inclinations. They understand what we tend to do. And for them, because this goes hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, and this is information that is not necessarily human by nature, they understand how our mechanisms work, and they have absolutely manipulated that. But we don't have to put up with that. We don't have to do that. When we go within, we are now directing ourselves. We are setting our compass to what we wanted it to be, to what we desire that compass, which way we want it to go when we go within and heal.
So, when we look at, again, what's saying here, for one, the timelines are off, again, because he writes down from this writing, 177 years, 3 months, 11 days, plague, log, famine, wars, still more floods from now to the stated time. Before and after these, humanity shall several times be so severely diminished that scarcely anyone shall be found who wishes to take over the fields. which shall become free, where they had previously been tied. This will be after the visible judgment of heaven, before we reach the millennium which shall complete all, and the firmament of the eighth sphere, a dimension whereupon Almighty God will complete the revolution, where the constellations will resume their motion, which will render the earth stable and firm, but only if he will remain unchanged forever until his will be done. Again, it's if you want to talk about the creator of this universe, the will of the creator of this universe is that every individual in this universe is free to go ahead and be its own creator being. The creator of this universe did not put us here. And again, we really aren't placed here per se. Again, we choose to be here as an experience in which to learn and to grow. So we're not really put here. And again, we're not even really created. The bodies are created. The soul is eternal. So the spark of source that's within all of us is also within the creator of this particular universe. And maybe it helps to view the universe as a matrix of sorts, as we can see. So we come into a matrix of our own accord. We find a system that has been hijacked from the original creator in many ways, in which the original creator is trying to write it from within, but still allowing that prime directive of free will. Because the original creator doesn't want to just create or put beings in a place to become robots, to just go through pointless suffering, trial and tribulation without the soul growth that this was intended to be, and with predetermined outcomes. If one can go within, one would see and connect to the higher self, one would see that this is an absurdity. This is an atrocity. This is not the reality. What they are doing is basically portraying themselves as the creator of this universe, in which they're not. They are the manipulators. They don't have that type of creative ability. They don't have that type of creative consciousness. All they can do is take what is and tweak it, and all their tweaking is basically done in a negative way to serve their own self-interests. So we have to recognize this, and we are recognizing this. So shooting forward to the present day here, we see mass protests again in Brazil, ongoing. These things have been ongoing. And when we look to Brazil, like it's just today we're looking at Brazil. We've looked at other countries other days. And again, we'll be looking at the U.S. and the NATO nations in particular in the future as well. How big is Brazil? Well, this gives you an idea. This is the land mass itself. You see, you could put Ecuador, Hungary, Senegal, UK, Germany, Finland, Spain, Denmark, Switzerland, France. It goes on and on. Israel, Haiti, Portugal, Croatia, Bosnia, Greece, Italy, Tajikistan, Angola, Venezuela, Mongolia, Laos, Nepal, Guyana. All these countries inside Brazil. Brazil is huge. In fact, Brazil, China, and the U.S. are very close in size. And after Russia and Canada, these would be the next largest countries in land area. So this is a very, very large country. And we see people out in defiance of the results. Now, again, you got to recognize, too, the infiltration is really total. What we're really looking at is a system that has, it's not that it just got broke, it's always been broke, so to speak. In that, if we're talking about that free will perspective, it's just the illusion is going. The illusion is going, and it's time for the illusion to go. The controllers know it's time for the illusion to go as well, but they want to always steer you down one of their paths. You see, Brazil's Ministry of Defense has audited the election being contested by millions of protesters, declaring that fraud cannot be ruled out. Fraud cannot be ruled out. That's a big statement. Yeah, well, this whole world is based on fraud. The entirety of everything we see is based on fraud. It's based on deception. And this is up in Times Square, for those that haven't been there before. People in support Brazilian spring. Well, again, it's in the southern hemisphere, right? This is just, again, the beginning. We're really going into a period of acceleration. Look at the size of this crowd out there. We're going into an accelerated period right now of rapid change that's going to leave many, many heads spinning. And when we look at the bigger picture of what's going on, what's being exposed, much is being exposed on purpose. As you see, foreign-owned farms draining Southwest aquifers to feed cattle overseas. Cindy was looking at this. This caught her eye when we were having coffee, and she's like, "What's that?" And we know because we had property. We tried to get a well, and we couldn't get anybody to come out and dig a well. And you have no guarantees. Here you see groundwater levels in the late 1950s, about 100 feet deep in this one particular area in Arizona. Now they're 540 feet deep. Problem is, like the residential areas, the wells there typically about 300 feet. If you talk about a small farm, it might go down 1,000. But then you got the big corporations and the foreign corporations that are at 1,500 feet, sucking everybody's water away. And then, of course, we have all the geomod going on. This is in La Paz. By the way, this is this area here on the California border, heading, it's north from Yuma. This is, again, one of those things that makes hard decisions even harder on where are you going to, try to root yourself. It is much easier to grow spiritually when we are rooted.
Indeed. You're able to nurture yourself when you're well-rooted and get strong and make the right decisions. But all of these things that they are doing is just, it's so artificial. It's so artificial and manipulated. And it's getting more and more difficult for people to take a look at it and go on with what they're putting forward. People are finding themselves, it's more and more difficult to really look at the matrix and look to see what they are doing and go along with it. And this is the awakening. This is the part that we are waiting for. It's the part where they get nervous, because this is where they can absolutely lose control if we are able to take back our world and our co-creation.
So the Chinese influence in Latin America has grown so substantially, increased at a striking 31% annual rate, massively. Well, this is all just part of that shift. And again, you have to recognize that when we go back through history, we don't know who the indigenous people per se in the Americas at the time of Columbus, who they supplanted. Because they probably supplanted somebody else that was there. This is what goes on. But then the Europeans come, and there's a massive genocide, and these people get pushed into tiny little plots of the worst land on both continents, for the most part. And, hey, this is how the West was won. Think about these terms that we grew up with. Onward Christian soldiers. Isn't that something that's in conflict with itself? Because a true Christian wouldn't necessarily be a soldier off there conquesting. And some will say, "Well, we're conquesting souls." Well, there again, are you really? This is about awakening. This is about awakening, not forcing anybody anything. And again, dogma is created to divide in the first place. We're all, as Cindy had said the other day, facets, an individual facet on a diamond that's refracting and reflecting light in all different ways. Every single person, a unique facet, doesn't have to be made to be the exact same size, shape, or form as any other facet. This is the type of concept we have to get past, because they want conformity. We saw another graph look just like this. This is menstrual disorders in the last 2 years or so. Through the roof. And we know, I mean, everybody we talk to that's female in this age group, they're all having issues. Anemia, irregularity, twice a month, What's really going on? Again, we see population decline, life expectancy decline. China plans to launch an artificial moon to light up the night skies. Well, we saw them light up a second sun. Do we need a second artificial moon?
This really reminds me a couple of years ago when I was having a dream and I went outside and I looked up and there were 2 red moons. and everybody was just like, oh my gosh. And I knew that was a sign for something that was not good. And when we have things like this going on that are so serious, we really need to do what these guys are doing in the freezing snow and just put our nervous energy to some good use.
So, here he's showing something saying these are real Indian soldiers dancing in 5 below Celsius on real snow, not some Chinese kid soldiers created in studios dancing on fake snow. Again, we got to get past the division because, again, every population in this world has been used at one time or another to go against another. We go just back to Deuteronomy 32:8, when the head chief god, so to speak, got together with the sons of the gods and divvied the nations between themselves. They each took their own people, they each took their own tribe, and then they had fun playing war games. This is what's still ongoing. It's all fun and games to them, even though people really die, and there is really suffering, and souls really do get trapped. For periods of time, it does happen. This is what we're supposed to be doing, having fun, being creative, not fighting each other. Again, we get the Darwinian, the 33rd degree Mason, Charles Darwin point of view. It's natural selection because it's survival of the fittest, dog eat dog. Well, that's again the Anunnakian, draconian system point of view. Really, we are all part of the same entity, and we should be working in a symbiotic way. Not competition, but working together. And when you read, the Genesis, for instance, many people pick up that it seems like there's 2 creation stories there. And one feels kind of nice and fuzzy. The other one doesn't feel so fuzzy. And we see rats move to music beat just as humans do. And they seem to like the same music we do. Mm-hmm. They are drawn to certain higher vibes, just like we are. We all have our individual musical taste, sure, and that depends on where we are resonating with. And, my tastes have changed drastically over the years, drastically. And yet I could still enjoy from time to time some stuff that I did, as a kid. But the point is, they feel it too. They feel it because it's a frequency. And ultimately, we've been taught that we're different. We're created in God's image per se, which now the thought is that it separates us from nature. Nothing else is. Well, again, that's another error in the way things are viewed, because the soul moves from new vehicle to new vehicle. The soul has all different sorts of experiences. An infinite number of incarnations per se. Many elemental beings, when one tree dies, they will pack up and they will go and they will take up residence working on another tree.
Mm-hmm. Everything has a flow to it. And we were driving the other day and there was a couple things I noticed. I noticed in one particular area that the trees were appreciative of the life form that re-enters the ground. And then a little while later, I saw 2 trees that were uprooted and on the ground, and they were dying. And what happens with that is the elementals that were in those living trees at that time now move on and they find another entity to inhabit and to embrace, as the trees that were uprooted now enter back into the ground. Everything has a cycle, a very, very natural cycle. You don't have to tell a caterpillar, give it instructions for it to go in a cocoon and make some beautiful wings. That's just absurd. Well, we are no different. We have a natural order in the way we do things if we are not interfered with.
And, the point is we have been interfered with, and we've been given these belief systems that are very far off from the reality of things. And the reality of things is such that it's hard to really conceive for many people. The complexity of the universe, and yet the simplicity at the same time, the beautiful simplicity, as everything is totally interconnected. And here we see, is this an alien invasion? No, don't worry. Kitty has it under control. Almost looks like Kitty is just riding on top of R2-D2 or something. Again, we could look to nature to see like the natural order of things. And yes, we actually had to put a little heat on this morning. And so this little guy's enjoying it. Why wouldn't he? Or she? Because again, the soul is the part that just simply changes vehicles. The emotions are still there. Whether it's a pig, a dog, a human, a bird, a cat, a bug, a lizard, they all have emotions. They all have feelings. They all have thoughts. And we try to console ourselves with the way we treat them, as in many cases we treat them far less than what we would treat another human. And often, we don't treat each other well enough in the first place. And we try to tell ourselves, well, they're not like us. Of course they are like you. They are like us. And at some point in time, this little guy might be a human.
Mm-hmm. Animals are really beautiful in the sense where they just act purely on instinct until they're taught something different. Humans act purely on instinct, and we have this learned system that we go by, and we have choices after we learn something. That's where things change. But the core is all about love and emotions. At the core of everything, there is simply love of life. That's all there is. There's no extending that love in A, B, C, D. There's none of that. It's all love of life.
Absolutely. So, again, now that Nostradamus is on the other side, and again, he's not in torment. He's not in hell per se or anything like that, because he was channeling truly for the controllers. He wants to right things. He wants to make amends and to help illuminate people in these time periods, as does the others that we were talking about, like John Dee, who was a court astrologer as well, and then Aleister Crowley, who went down a road that led to being controlled by these very dark forces as well, and not really going after what he originally intended. But all these beings, again, they do have chances to make amends. They learn, they grow, and again, it's when we are in service to others that we really truly grow, and we really truly make a difference, and we really truly start to accumulate positive karma that's going to just push us up into higher and higher realms.
Mm-hmm. And whenever you know better, you do better.
Absolutely. So again, as always, guys, may you be blessed by the true creator of this universe and surrounded by that love that knows no bounds. God bless and namaste.
Namaste.